All right. Hello, everyone. It's Cate Stillman with Yoga Health Coaching, and I'm here with Carman Murray in a YHC Mastery Coaching Gym. And it sounds like we're talking about self-sabotage. So, yeah, just go ahead and tell me, what you're hoping that we can accomplish in this session. So let's start there.
To get rid of the pattern, the old pattern habit I have of sabotaging myself when things start to get great.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like 3 weeks ago, I felt like I was on top of things. I was connecting with people. I'd done some conversations about my course. And then for a whole week, I was going to bed at 10 or later, and sleep is my keystone habit. And so when I don't get the sleep I need, everything, like my systems, my energy, my mood, all of it just goes off kilter. And I'm no longer aligned. And I no longer want to do the action steps that I know get me places.
Okay.
And it's a pattern. I'll go, I know at Christmas time, I went for a month where I wasn't going to bed when I wanted to and when I needed to. And then I get back on track for a month or two or a week or two, and then I fall off again. And I'm really tired of it. And I'd like to deal with whatever it is that I've got going on with it.
Okay. So things, when they go well, that's when, yeah. Okay. I mean, I think the best teaching on this comes from Gay Hendricks in The Big Leap, when he talks about the upper limit problem. I'll draw it out on my pad while I talk about it, because I think it can be helpful to see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then if we make this in a podcast, the images of these will be in the show notes. So the idea, I'm going to draw it in terms of a container. So say this is the container of you. Yeah. And so just imagining that you're in a bubble, if you will. And this is how much happiness, joy, love, this is like your quota for happiness, joy, and love. Right. And so then you do something, and you could even say abundance as well is in here. Or for some of us, this might equate to dollars. It might equate to a certain position, like rising to a certain position or level of authority or any of that. There's basically a upper limit. There's a limit to how much of this is normal. And now I'm going to take Gay Hendricks' teaching, and I'm going to give it an Ayurvedic interpretation or yogic interpretation at the same time. And so if we look at, what's happening here is there's a certain way of feeling grounded in what's familiar. And so the quota is what's familiar.
Can we add excitement to that too? Because this morning what's happening is my excitement I'm viewing as anxiety until I sit with it. And that's what I was doing while I was just waiting for it. I'm like, shit, that's not anxiety, that's excitement. And I'm making it anxiety. And then it just messes it up even more.
Right. All right. So what happens is then we want to grow, right? And so we do all these things like enrolling in a course with me, right? Or we do these things. Or 3, right? So we do these things that then are increasing our limit, our upper limit. So we're then in saying that I can experience more. And for many people in yoga health coaching, they're in here for more impact, which will bring a deeper sense of meaning. We could also say we have a quota for how meaningful or impactful our life is. A lot of people are in YHC to increase that abundance as well. So we always say income and impact, because they can be so super paralleled. All right. So then what happens is we say, I'm going to be more. And this is also an identity evolution, right? Where we're saying that who I am is now I have an identity of someone that actually can have even more impact or more meaning and more abundance or more money, more possessions, even more of an exciting life. For some people, it's more freedom as well, right? They start to experience a lot more freedom. I have quite a bit of freedom. I have increasing amounts of freedom in my life year over year. So then this is an identity evolution. And the problem is we now are in the unfamiliar. And what Gay Hendricks says is when you're unfamiliar, it basically triggers a reversion. And this is part of the reptilian brain response, which is saying, like, the unfamiliar is dangerous, it's unknown, and therefore I should contract, right? And so in our operating system as human beings, we have a very strong pattern of contracting against the unfamiliar, even if it's good, even if it's joy, even if the unfamiliar is more money, even if the unfamiliar is a more exciting life or more freedom in our life. We have a tendency to hit an upper limit. And what Gay says in this is, he says, you know, some people will have an accident or have an injury, things that don't even seem related, have a health condition come up. And what it'll do is it'll force a contraction. You're saying, like, oh, I haven't gone that far. All I do is I stay up too late. I throw my habits out the window and I get off schedule. And I think any yoga health coach can relate and is thankful for your vulnerability about that, because it's just so part of what happens with it. So then what is the antidote is how do I get grounded? How do I actually increasingly look at, okay, well, if the key is getting grounded in the familiar, how do I do that with the unfamiliar, right? That is then the practice, is how do I then do that, increasingly do this so that this whole pattern expands and expands and expands and expands. And there is a practice in our practice lab on this.
Yay.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute meditation or contemplation practice, depending on how strict we are with the term meditation. Because what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to continually increase what's good. We want to continually become bigger and bigger and bigger versions of ourselves, right?
That's trippy when you do that with your screen.
I know, right? So what I want to show is that it doesn't stop. It's getting grounded and grounded in each iteration of the identity evolution. So we're continually becoming, and I'm using size here, but a bigger and bigger version of ourselves. And what I want to underline here is you become increasingly capable. So the capability increases. And what this requires is nerves. It really, and the yogis were very clear on this. It requires a development of nerves, which is overriding that contraction pattern, that you actually develop your nervous system to be able to handle more and more and more. It's like, why does the Dalai Lama meditate 3.5 hours a day? Well, he's developing his nervous system to be able to lead, a people and actually be a global leader in that. So you're developing the nerves, increasingly developing the nerves. So what this requires is, it requires us to stop, to pause in that stop, and to recalibrate. And that's what I call it in the practice lab. I call it the recalibration practice. So we practice recalibrating our nervous system at more joy, more meaning, more money, more impact, more resources. And it feels like, it feels like, and then that exhale. And then it feels like groundedness. So you feel your feet. It's very grounded. Like, there's a reason I'm choosing this word, grounded, is you feel your feet and then you consciously allow your nervous system to expand again and saying, this is now normal. Okay. This is now normal. Let me feel this feeling of being even happier. Let me feel this feeling of being even less afraid to have sales strategy sessions. Let me feel this feeling of being a good coach, of receiving the praise that I'm receiving, the positive feedback. And you're allowing your nerves to get used to this feeling, to get calibrated at this expansion. It's the opposite of the old quota, right? So let the new normal is the new quota. And it, to me, feels like it, like the images I'm drawing is you're literally feeling your bubble is bigger and your nerves are stronger to be able to carry energy further out into the bubble.
And it's interesting because I feel like I've been doing it, and I feel like my contraction and when I mess with my sleep is part of that. But it's just like, oh, now I can do it with more ease and grace and less resistance and struggle if I'm consciously doing it, rather than my body gets forced into doing it by me not taking care of it because I continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain habits that are going to go with each quota.
Yeah.
And the habits, in my experience, they become increasingly subtle. So we could say new normal, new quota equals new habits. One of the big ones, one of these big newer habits that I've recognized, and it's in multiple traditions. So when things in my life show up, you know, they show up in ancient yogic texts, and then they show up in like modern, you know, like sort of law of abundance type books. I'm like, what's going on here? And it's a law of, it's interesting. It's around praise. You can find it in the Bible. You can literally find it everywhere. It's like you learn how to praise what's happening. And it's a way in yoga and tantra, it's often called seeing the Shri, where you recognize the Shri. You recognize that which is good and true and beautiful, like everything that's in our quota list, like anything that is promoting more life and more beauty and more for all. And you just pause and you praise that. You praise what you're seeing, you praise what's working. And that is a calibration practice. So you praise the good habits that you have. It's like you praise yourself for like, I'm going to bed early. And that is good. And that is right. And that enables this order that allows more harmony. And that harmony enables more beauty. And that beauty enables more happiness. And it's always that order of order to harmony to beauty to happiness. So what we're doing when we take up more space is we're bringing more order into the field. So the field, and the yogis talk a lot about the field. So this is the field. Some people call it like the ether that's impressionable by thought. So this is the field. We're all in a field. The field has consciousness in it, but the more we actually imprint order into that field of consciousness, the more order we create for ourselves and for other people. So order to harmony, the more that we're in harmony, the more beauty there is, the more happiness we feel. So whenever you are sabotaging a habit that's disrupting order, the natural order of things, which includes the circadian rhythm, which is the circadian rhythm is under that law of order. Whenever you violate that, you are choosing contraction. And now you're in violation of the natural law, which means your ability to impress upon the field will be lessened.
Okay. You make it sound so simple. I love it.
Yeah, good. I was just on a walk with a good friend this morning. It was a long walk. I have a puppy and she has 2 dogs, and we sometimes go for a walk, and this walk then turned into a hike because we ended up on the mountain trails. And I was telling her I was telling her a bit about this practice, interestingly enough. I was telling her about this as Yoga Healer, as a company is growing and my team is becoming increasingly capable, and I'm investing more and more in great people, and things are growing. And now I not only have this, this gorgeous house and places in Mexico and, these assets, but I just bought the 16 acres on a creek, and it's in she lives in a split house, and the person who's on the other side of the house knows the owner of the property I bought, who died, and then it went into a trust, and I bought it from the father and the daughter in the trust. And I felt like the father and daughter didn't understand the land, but I had a strong sense that the woman who purchased this property in the 90s had, like, that she and I were simpatico on the stewardship of this very sacred piece of property. And I had no confirmation on this at all. It was just a sense of this. And she had been talking with her neighbor the day before yesterday. And this neighbor was friends with the original owner.
Cool.
And confirmed the stewardship vision and why she purchased this land to, so that the old chokecherry forest and serviceberry forest, so that it was an intact ecosystem. And I was telling her I've been consciously expanding, both in terms of investing more in the team and now having this land. Because it's like when you invest, you have to energetically expand. Otherwise, what happens is you set yourself up, and this is Gay's point, you set yourself up for a contraction, because your nervous system has to readjust at such a higher plane in order to absorb. And it's like a sponge, like that. Those bubbles are like sponges. You need to absorb more of the field and bring that into your nervous system, so that your nervous system then extends like a starfish more into that field. So you're able to bring more order in from a place that's grounded, not from wishful thinking, not from this or that. When people don't do that, what happens is things go weird or things go wrong. You see it all the time, like someone wins the lottery and they have no idea how to energetically extend their nervous system into their newfound wealth. And then they crash and burn and create all this drama and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the recalibration practice, it's like what I'm experiencing, it's like a multiple times a day where you're just like exhaling and really receiving that which is ordered, that which is harmonic, that which is right. These step downs into like greater levels of beauty and greater levels of happiness. And you're just absorbing in your nervous system. And it's so relaxed. It should be a descent of apana vayu, because that's grounded energy. So the prana goes down and then the nervous system expands outward.
Okay. Cool.
So even when you recognize beauty of just like really taking it in, when one of your children does something right, praising that and really taking in aligned action, that creates more order. So we celebrate a lot of little wins. Puppy training is such a perfect example of like, oh, there's deer and the puppy didn't chase, right? Like that is a big win in our life.
We just got chickens yesterday, so that'll be fun to do that around.
Yeah. And then praise what's working in your habits. So what might that look like for you?
That might look like really honoring and praising getting outside. I've been outside lots this past week helping my husband rip apart fence. So yeah, just out on the land, out on the working with nature, being with nature, and being peaceful and centered and grounded, and being able to actually feel the energy of nature. Great. So keep doing that. Keep praising the ground and praising what's growing and praising the animals and in that praising the members of the family and just praising your clients, praising your business,
Anything you want to see expand, you have to praise.
Okay.
You have to look for even if it's like, wow, 90% of this is off, but 10% of this is on. See the 10%, because that's the part that you want to expand. That's the part that's under order, is moving into harmony, which is creating beauty, which is creating happiness.
And that's, I'm feeling that a little bit because I just started the Awake Living course. And so I've been reading about space, and this morning, all this stuff, and I don't have a lot of stuff, is in my space of this is not stuff for my future self. So 5 minutes before I got on the call with you, I'm like, out of my closet.
Great. Yeah. Just
so feeling big shifts for me.
That's great. And so with that, as your environment, as you start to architect your environment for this, and I'm glad we drew it out for that expanded sense of self, is pause and feel it as you do it. Like pause and feel it. When people don't do that, what's funny, it's interesting, Marie Kondo talks about it, is they like go out and they buy the same thing. Right? Is they like bring it all back in. Because that, again, that's the grounded familiar, even if it's contracted. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm sure this is relevant to everyone listening. So thank you. Thanks for being vulnerable and honest with where you're at, and best to you as you recalibrate and recalibrate and recalibrate.
Okay.
It doesn't end.
No.
It does go more and more beyond your wildest dreams. Like that is what I keep finding is like, you start to not even know what dreams you have, and then they come true and you're like, oh my gosh, and then it's that reabsorption of, wow, in this too. And it's more and more ordered.
Yeah.
So because we can take on more and more order, that's where we become more and more capable, because things are we're so attuned to order and what creates order that we know then goes to harmony, that then goes to beauty, that then goes to happiness.
Yeah.
But we're so attuned to order. And so then the question is like, how do I next order my life, my refrigerator, my calendar, my activity at work, so that things are increasingly at higher orders?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. My pleasure. Go you. Go Yoga Health Coach.
Very cool. And I have to show you my shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you're on brand. Dandelions are the new kale. YogaHealer.com. So we want to do, I think we're like finally ready for Thistle is the new dandelion. We're not selling shirts online right now. Someone just asked. We'll figure that out. I'll put that on my trimester 3 smarts that we have a click and order print store.
It was my t-shirt that went on my body, not in the giveaway pile. So I was like, show Cate.
Oh, namaste. I love it.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Have a great day.